Crafting a compelling guitar solo is a skill that's made up of a lot of different elements, and some of them are not necessarily hard elements, like how to play scales really fast or arpeggios or know a lot of technical stuff. But there are other elements that may not seem very obvious that go into making up something that, that has a sort of a beginning, a middle, of an end, and an end, so to speak. So in order to get this skill, it requires some focus and effort and practice on these other elements. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today you're going to learn how to craft a compelling guitar solo. Now, depending on your subjective opinion about which solos are great or not, we may disagree on what a great guitar solo sounds like, specifics of it. But there are some elements to every great solo, no matter what instrument has played it, that are definitely sort of concurrent and common. One is dynamics, right? There's probably some sort of evolution of either volume or maybe note density, playing a few notes very soulfully or playing a lot of notes really fast, right? Those types of things form up like the dynamic journey of the solo. And then you've got note choices, like what is the sonic makeup? Like what are the harmonic and melodic choices that are being made? Because depending on what notes you play over the existing harmony, those choices make up the sort of emotional journey of the solo. Because each one of these harmonic relationships has a sonic personality, and those evoke emotional responses. Then there's stuff like, what does your guitar sound like? Is it a clean tone? Is it a dirty tone? Are you using a lot of distortion? Which pedals are you using? And each one of those things, those elements, while I could probably do a video on each one of those, they all sort of add up to the technical deployment of a good guitar solo. So I want to show you sort of how I made some choices on a solo that I played. It's the one you heard at the top. This is over a song called Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone by Bill Withers. And I played in a band of 8 folks who I'd never played with before. This group had never been on stage together. We had a very short rehearsal, so it was very fluid and not a lot was defined. So we had to really be on our game. So I'm going to play this solo and show you what the note choices were, why I made the choices I made. I'm going to play it for you and explain sort of what I was thinking about and my thought process during the solo to sort of generate like an arc, like some sort of evolution, like that beginning, middle, and end. Tell a story with what my choices were. And after we dive in and zoom in and I show you all this stuff, then I want to show you a couple of other things from the gig that I think are specifically interesting in that they're not necessarily technical elements, but they're definitely like sort of external forces that I had to react in. Okay, so let's just zoom in and I'll show you what I played. All right, let's dig into the solo. So I took 2 rounds, and I'll show you what the chord progression is. This is Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone by Bill Withers. Basically, the song is in A minor, and it features a vamp that goes A minor, and then the bass line goes E to G, like this. Then it goes to E minor, to D minor, then back to A. That's 1 round. On this solo, I took 2 rounds of that. I went through once and then I went through again. So I'm just going to show you what I played and sort of talk through what my thought process was. Right off the bat, if you listen to the recorded version of the song, there is no solo. So in this situation where I'm playing live, it's a familiar song, real huge fans of this song, I don't want to alienate them by just blasting off and playing something they've never heard before. And when you introduce a solo in a song like this where there hasn't been a solo, people who are really connected to it may go, wait a minute, I don't remember this part. What's going on now? And rather than risk that type of alienation and allowing people to sort of disconnect from the music, the first thing I chose to do was play the melody. That's basically what the melodic content is of the verse. second time through, I just did a little embellishment there. The third time through, it hits the E minor. Just again, a little bit more embellishment. And this is marking the first half of the solo. So all I've done here is play the melody for the most part. A little bit of embellishment here and there. And now we're just hitting that D minor, heading back around to the top. And I choose to just do sort of an A minor pentatonic lick. And I put a little whammy dive in there just because, you know, I'm on stage, the amp's turned up loud. That's going to be fun for me, and it's going to add sort of a little bit of interesting color. Especially since I've just been focusing on the melody. That little moment where I can add a little bit of flair does two things. One is it allows me to have a little fun and take it up a notch. But it also, as you'll see when we dive into the clip again, it also signals the band that I'm going to go around again. Like, you know, it's clearly a statement of like, I'm almost done, right? There's going to be more coming. The second half of the solo, I open like this. Now I've moved away from the melody here, and I'm looking at this A minor chord up here. And I'm outlining this A minor tonality by playing a little pedal tone and bending the second up to the minor third. And then using this note, this E note, to pedal back to the root. And I let that sit for a measure. And in direct response to that, I play another figure that ends on the exact same phrase. So it's a great example of a motif, right? I've opened with this. Gave it a lot of room to breathe, and then I added some a pedal point figure, and I was very thoughtful to end on the exact same notes. And that just gives something for the audience to hang on to. You can hear it coming. It's very, you know, it sets up a journey, right? There's a statement, and then there's another statement that has a little bit something extra to it, but it ends on the same notes. It's a great example of a motif. Now we're coming around to the end of the solo. There's the E minor part. So I just go up here to the E minor sort of 12th position, pentatonic. I hit this note and I bend flat very, very specifically. Just to give a lot of emotional content to this last phrase. And then I play this descending lick, which is basically coming down the Aeolian mode, and I end with sort of a pentatonic flourish. And this is sort of, again, increasing the note density, right? Giving a bit of a flurry, something to sort of bring up the intensity and the dramatic content of the solo here towards the end. At that point, I go up here to the 10th fret and I just play a D minor pentatonic phrase. And now it's the ending of the solo and I want to end big. I want to increase the tension. I want to increase the dramatic impact. So I slide up here to the 17th fret on the B and the E string. And then I'm bending the B string up from the 20th fret to the root. And then the root again here on the E string on the 17th fret. And you'll see when we zoom in on the actual performance that I do some physicality there to help sort of move the band, to sort of, you know, let the band know that I'm done. So that's the whole thing. Not a really long solo, maybe not even really a great solo, but a solo that starts somewhere, has some phrasing and some intention, right? And then moves to another part. And then of course those pentatonic runs that just give me an opportunity to let out some blues licks, increase the intensity, and then ending on that very, very high repetitive phrase against the root. So there's a view, phrase by phrase, about the thought process that builds a solo that takes the audience from a place, a familiar place, the melody, through these other areas and builds intentional dynamics and ends in a flurry, in a big way, so that everyone understands we've started somewhere, there's been a journey, and there's been a big ending. Okay, so there's the solo. Hopefully I've given you like a view into my thought process there. But now I want to show you something else. I just want to take a moment and run the clip again and do a bit of reaction to talk you through a few moments that happened on stage. While they aren't necessarily technical skills, they're external influences that definitely sort of shape what choices you make on stage in a live environment. So here's the clip. There's a few things, just 3 things that I want to show you. One is here at the very beginning of the clip. The song is going along and there's the E minor. Here comes the D minor. I've got one bar to understand whether or not Mathiew is going to give me this solo. I talked about the rehearsal in which he said, well, I'll read the crowd. This is a moment right now where I'm assuming there may be a solo. So the way I react is I'm watching Mathiew, I get my foot over the boost pedal and I just laser focus on him. And he waits to the last moment to turn around, which is that's not his job. His job is just to give me the cue whenever he's ready. It's my job to grab the cue and make sure that I am ready when it does come. So watch this. Here comes that last measure. 1, 2, boom. So just barely enough time to react, right? I'm watching him. I've got my foot over the pedal, looking at him. And he just turns around and says, "You've got it." Really cool. Great sort of, example of really cool communication going on stage. Next thing I want to show you is something that the violinist does, which I think is just really cool. She had expressed that she wanted a solo as well, and she did get a solo in a different part of the night on a different tune, but we didn't define any of that in rehearsal. So here we come. I'm halfway through the solo. And as you may or may not know about solos, you go around once or you go around twice, right? But in rehearsal, we didn't define that. So she's wondering at this point, maybe he's going to give me the solo at this point? Don't know. And so she just wants to make sure she's ready. So watch what she does here. Gets her violin ready, gets the bow ready. We're coming up on the halfway point, and I'm taking another round. So interesting, just a great example of a subtle display of real professionalism. Just in case, like what if I had broken a string, or if my solo was indeed over and I just went around once. She's just showing that she's ready to take the solo if she needs to. Really great expression of professionalism. So then one more thing at the very end. We're coming up to the end, and Matthew's feeling this second round be over, and he's going to want the song back. He's going to want to start singing again. The solo shouldn't be more than 2 rounds anyway, unless we're in some sort of a jazz band, but here we are. He wants the song back. He turns to me just before the end of the second half just to let me know. And you'll see him turn to me, and I completely focus in on him, and I'm like, yep, I got it. So here's that moment. There's the E minor, and he feels the D minor coming, and he looks at me. He's like, "You're done?" "Yep." So now he and I understand. I'm done with the solo. He knows it. He's coming back to the mic. But just in case no one else saw that cue, I get very, very big visually here, just to make sure that everyone knows it's over, right? Just a subtle display of something that's not necessarily directly related to the notes that I've played or the choices that I've made. But these types of influences dictate how long the solo might be, or who's going to solo, or when things are handed back and forth. And in an environment where the rehearsals are very, very brief, and you have 7 or 8 people who all have conflicting needs, you can't take up a lot of space in rehearsal, and you have to rely on your ability to react professionally and dynamically in the moment. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. I had a great time sort of going through this and showing you my thought process and all of the other sort of external forces and the ideas that come together that affect this very short period of time and what it takes to make a compelling statement in a guitar solo. I've tabbed out the solo itself. That's on Patreon, and I've linked that in the description below. Head on over there if you want the tabs. Also, the singer, Mathiew Andre, is just a really great singer-songwriter. So I've also linked his YouTube channel in here. Go check him out. He's a fantastic singer-songwriter. So I definitely suggest you go check him out. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. Just sort of an expose on what happens and what are all the thought processes and internal and external forces that go into making something as simple as a guitar solo sort of have a life of its own and serve a purpose. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.